Good morning again, First Church. It's great to see you all here. The time is out of joint. Oh, cursed spite that ever I was born to set it right. No doubt you recognize that from Shakespeare's Hamlet as he wandered lost and bewildered by overwhelming events he could not understand. I might begin here by confessing that lately I often find myself bewildered. I can usually formulate questions to illuminate a confusing problem, but my bewilderment seems different, lacking any frame for even grasping an issue, much less shaping a solution. So I wander around, lost in bewilderment, again and again, muttering that old upper Midwestern exclamation, wait, what now? You've heard it. Wait, what now? I've made some progress over the years. I'm just as bewildered as I probably was 50 years ago when I thought I knew a lot. But now I know I'm bewildered. I've achieved a state of what we might call lucid bewilderment. If you know me well, you know I suffer from a sometimes irresistible urge to explore the obscure origins, meanings, and derivations of interesting words. Take bewilderment, for example. Bear with me, I promise this won't take long. It's not that old word, circa 1700, built by combining be, meaning thoroughly, and wilder or wilder, with its obsolete meaning of to lead astray or lure into the wilds. Well, having got that far down the rabbit hole, I was intrigued by that prefix be, wondering what other words might be good examples of its meaning thoroughly. And the first one I thought of course, was bedeviled. Then Mr. Golden, my high school English teacher, said into my mind's ear, you must use words in a sentence to cement your understanding of them. So here goes. I am bewildered by the actions or inaction of people in power, bewildered by the apparent indifference of so many of my fellow citizens, and I'm bedeviled by those ever-present competing impulses that arise in times that feel stressful or threatening. Fight, freeze, or flee. I'm also reeling from the naked viciousness in political struggles, brazen corruption and mendacity at high levels of government, the shocking violence that seems to be encouraged by those behaviors, and too often a pervasive fear of imminent disaster. And all of that is suffused with something I can only describe as heartache. Some of the stress I feel stems from loud and repetitive exclamations that all of this is unprecedented, an implicit warning that since we've never seen these things before, we don't have the wisdom or the tools to respond effectively, which tends to make us freeze, which I think is probably exactly what the authors of Project 2025 would like to see happen. 4 months ago, when I began thinking about this sermon, something in me was resisting the notion that all these recent events are unprecedented, because quite often much that was happening felt oddly familiar to me. In recent years, we have seen active shooter drills become commonplace in our schools. My strongest memories of grade school are of the duck and cover drills, which involved little children jumping under their desks or rushing to an inner hallway, then hunching down and covering their heads with their arms because at any moment, Soviet nuclear missiles might hit us. And hear this. The government has embarked upon and persists in modes of action whose legality and constitutionality are open to grave doubt. We see open or thinly veiled threats to liberties guaranteed under the First Amendment, open disregard for the constitutional powers of Congress, not to mention the Vice President's reference to resistors and dissenters as vultures and parasites, whom we can afford to separate from our society with no regret. Those words were in an essay in the New Yorker titled Civil Disobedience, written by Hannah Arendt, published in 1970. The LA Times recently published a timeline of events in what they called a turbulent year. Here's a sample of what they described. Students at an East LA high school staged a walkout to demand better educational opportunities and facilities. The Associated Press published a shocking photograph of the summary execution of a man on the street of a major city by an Army general. Students took over Columbia University administration buildings, insisting on their right to demonstrate and denouncing plans to build a gym in a nearby black neighborhood. In May, France erupted with nationwide anti-government demonstrations and a general strike by workers. Russia invaded a neighboring country to crush their movement toward democracy. The day before the November 5 presidential election, students in California took control of Valley State College's administration building to protest the institution's treatment of minority students. The headline of that piece in the LA Times was just the year, 1968. The subhead was a timeline of anger, grief, and change. It was the year I graduated high school. It was the year Dr. King and Robert Kennedy were murdered. The year my grandfather died, and the year my brother came home from Vietnam changed. So you see why much in these times seems somehow familiar to me. I find going through that list painful, but I do it to ask this hard question. Did we forget some history? Did we forget that history teaches us that nothing is guaranteed, nothing lasts forever, and what once was can be again? Well, we've had wannabe authoritarians in power before, but we now have an actual authoritarian at the peak of political power in this nation. That is a shocking thing to say in this country. But even more shocking to me is the number of elected officials willing to not just tolerate, but actively support actions which are indistinguishable, in my eyes, from domestic terrorism. Masked agents, often wearing no identifiable uniform, invade businesses, houses of worship, schools, homes, to make warrantless arrests and then effectively disappear those arrested. That looks like terrorism to me. So here we are, and now we cry out, the time is out of joint. Oh, cursed spite that ever I was born to set it right. In the epilogue to his 2017 book on tyranny, 20 Lessons from the 20th Century, historian Timothy Snyder quotes Hamlet and opines that our time is certainly out of joint, that these are dangerous times. And then he says quite pointedly, there are no adults to come clean up this mess. We own this mess. If we were born to set our time right, how would we do that? What road will we take? Where's the map? Who's got the road atlas? My friends, I fear that the theologian Nelle Morton, in her book, The Road is Home, had it right when she wrote, there is no road ahead. We will build the road as we go. So what do we do? Well, Snyder's 20 lessons from the 20th century warn us of dangers to avoid and suggest some actions we can take that might forestall some of those dangers. I know many of you have read it, but if you haven't, please do. And if you have read it, loan your copy to somebody who hasn't. In truth, I don't have much to add to Snyder's list or to the many other thoughtful people who are sounding alarms and proposing specific and practical and concrete means of resistance to what is coming or what has already arrived. But I do want to single out just one of his lessons. In chapter 2, entitled Defend Institutions, the first sentences are, it is institutions that help us preserve decency. They need our help as well. because institutions do not defend themselves. So choose an institution, a court, a newspaper, a law, a labor union, and take its side. I wish you'd have put a church on that list, because when I read that in 2017, I knew instantly that the first institution, not the only one, but the first, that I would choose is this one. And this institution is you. It's all of us here now, and all who came before us, and all those who in future will come to those doors looking for an ally. Recently, I was reading a book of sermons, as of course one does occasionally, right? In a sermon titled The Value of a Church, the Reverend John Cyrus, speaking from this pulpit about 65 years ago, said this: "To each of us, all the rest propose beliefs to live by, and to all of us, each proposes his own. And somewhere in our midst, I stand with the awful privilege of the pulpit, to speak both in wisdom and foolishness, the proposals of my own heart and my own mind. As much as we can, we range this believing world for all that mankind has proposed to believe. In this way, this church is an ally of every person." In simpler terms, I believe that we come here to help each other know how to live. How to live through unbearable sorrow, through devastating grief, through transcendent joy, through suffocating fear, and these days, through dangerous out-of-joint times. So we've got to figure out how to build the road ahead, and we've got to defend this institution that is First Church, which, as I said a moment ago, is you, it's me, it's each of us and all of us. How do we do that? Well, first of all, buckle up. Put your own oxygen mask on first. You will be needed. Some combination of your wisdom, your energy, your courage, and your skills will be needed. And we can't afford to lose you in a hard landing. Seek to understand the terrain ahead. Try to see obstacles and prepare for them. Study some history. Read Timothy Snyder's book. Seek out those skilled at organizing the work and inspiring the workers, people like Reverend Jennifer, Reverend Kimberly, Reverend Chris, and follow their lead. Next, you need to pick your battles. I see you all making your lists. And I fear that I need to tell you, nope, that's too many battles. Put some back and pick fewer battles. How do you decide? Well, here's one idea. The noted UU minister and author Forrest Church wrote that the two big questions that his sermons return to again and again were love and death. If you haven't done it already, figure out what big ideas or questions or values animate your life and fire your spirit. And then choose the battles you think you can fight best from the solid ground of those values. Learn to be a bridge builder. I firmly believe that there are many people who will want to travel the road we build, even if they don't know it yet. And they may need a bridge to get here. Pay less attention to the national news. Get to know your assembly rep. Join Common Ground, read the Shepherd Express, go to city council meetings, join the River Keepers, donate to the Urban Ecology Center or other local institutions. In other words, love your town. Love your town. It's one of the ways you can, in Rilke's words, rise up rooted like trees. Fly your country's flag. Fly it over your signs and banners that say, hate has no home here, no person is illegal, Black Lives Matter, we believe in science. You can go on with the list. Make the statement that this country and its flag belong to all of us. And stick close to people who make you laugh. And people who look at you, look at your face and say, wow. And listen to music. Not always in your earbuds. For example, go to Anodyne Coffee tonight at 6 o'clock and hear more of Claudia and Bruce. Seriously. Well, and here's the question. I'm sorry, excuse me. And here's an important one. Protect yourself from exhaustion. That's one reason you need to pick your battles. Remember that while we humans do agriculture to maximize production, the earth in her wisdom produces a sufficiency while preserving her potential for future production. I think this will be a long road we'll need to build, so pace yourselves. Nurture and protect your reserves, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Well, and here's the question again, how do we do that? We don't use the word much, but I suspect that for some of you, prayer is one way you quiet your mind, your heart, or your spirit. Mary Oliver wrote that you have your way of praying and I have mine. So I can't speak for you, but I'll share some things that help me, some things that might look a little like prayer. I try to notice and name the good, and I try to emulate it. I notice when drivers stop for pedestrians or when someone says warmly, "Thanks for your help," to a cashier or a flight attendant or the hardware store guy. Noticing those small kindnesses softens my life and makes me grateful. Makes me grateful. It's been said that it's impossible to be grateful and depressed at the same time. Impossible to be grateful and isolated. I walk in my neighborhood without earbuds or phone. I try to look, and I mean really look closely, at my little part of this broken but beautiful planet. I look and I listen until I feel the gravity pulling me to the heart of the world. I slow down and say hello to neighbors walking their dogs or to people waiting at the bus stop. And I'll admit it startles them sometimes because it doesn't happen very much. But they get used to it, and the next time they see me, they smile. I pick up trash as I walk, which is a real and immediate and useful thing to my little place in the world, which is a good thing. And other people sometimes notice it and emulate it, and the world changes just a little bit for the better. I try to resist the easy online buy and go to my library. I'll walk to it if I can, and I will go to Boswell Books, thereby supporting 2 local institutions. And I fly my country's flag above my signs supporting progressive political candidates. I do that in Trump country because it's my country and my flag too. I know that those are tiny little things, totally inconsequential to the world, but I try to do them all the time now, not because they'll change the world, but because they change me. They help me resist the acid cynicism which corrodes and erodes not only optimism, but hope. And I'm spurred on by what Pope Francis reportedly said was needed to solve our many crises, an artisanal path to a handmade peace created by the daily actions and decisions of individuals. And finally, wherever I am in the world, I look for a place where I can sit still, be quiet, try to surrender to Earth's intelligence, and to sense the grace of the world that set Wendell Berry free. And by the way, it doesn't have to be in the wilderness. I have found that space in a cathedral, seeing it rise up rooted like trees with beautiful light streaming through the overstory. Sometimes, if I'm really lucky, I experience what Peter Mathiasson described in his book, The Snow Leopard, about being in the mountains. Gradually, my mind cleared itself, and wind and sun pour through my head as through a bell. I am returned into myself. And to glimpse one's own true nature is a kind of homegoing. To a place east of the sun, west of the moon, the homegoing that needs no home. When the smallness of my little efforts threatens to discourage me, I remind myself of something else that Pope Francis said in his homily in Baghdad in 2021. He said, "We do not need to become occasional heroes, but to become witnesses day after day after day." I have now proposed some of my ideas about how we're going to live through the times to come. Whether in wisdom or foolishness, it's not mine to judge. But I invite you to sort out those big animating ideas that fire your spirit, do the little things, and find the places that nurture your heart. Then pick your battles and help build a road that can take us to a better future. I will leave you with this call to action in a poem by Aurora Levins Morales. It's titled Summons. Last night I dreamed 10,000 grandmothers from the 1,200 corners of the earth walked out into the gap, one breath deep between the bullet and the flesh, between the bomb and the family. They told me, we cannot wait for governments. There are no peacekeepers boarding planes. There are no leaders who dare to say every life is precious, so it will have to be us. They said, we will cup our hands around each heart. We will sing the earth's song, the song of water, a song so beautiful that vengeance will turn to weeping, the mourners will embrace, and grief replace every impulse toward harm. 10,000 is not enough, they said. So we have sent this dream, like a flock of doves into the sleep of the world. Wake up, put on your shoes. You who are reading this, I am bringing bandages and a bag of scented guavas from my trees. I think I remembered the tune. Meet me at the corner. Let's go. Thank you.